He bills himself as the outsider, the man who can bring some common sense, business sense to the Capitol.
I oppose earmarks and all pork spending. It's time for a new direction.
But to get there, Valley businessman Wil Cardon will face a primary challenge against a longtime East Valley Congressman Jeff Flake. Now we sit down with this candidate to find out how he wants to change Washington culture and just how he thinks he can do it. Tonight, the outsider looking to shake up Arizona politics, Unplugged.
Dennis, thank you very much. And now to what will be a closely watched race around the nation. The run for Arizona's open Senate seat. John Kyle currently holds that office, but announced he would not seek re-election. This has been a Republican seat for 18 years, and tonight we are joined by one of the Republicans who would like to keep it that way on the campaign trail. And that guest is Wil Cardon. Thank you so much for being here. We have had the opportunity in the past to speak with your rivals, Republican Congressman Jeff Flake and Democrat Richard Carmona. Tonight, we'd like to hear why you want to go to Washington and what you think, if elected, you could do.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks for having me. I've been in business for the last 20 years. I'm tired. I'm fed up with career politicians and people that go back to Washington, D.C., who don't have the common sense and don't have the experience that's needed right now. The biggest issue our state faces and our country faces are jobs and the economy. And we need business people to go back who've actually balanced budgets, who've made payrolls, who've had to do the things you do in business, dealt with government regulation, not read about it in books. We need outsiders. We need people who are not a part of the Washington, D.C. culture and not captive to Washington, D.C. special interests, but instead can represent the people and the voters of Arizona. And then we also need people that are consistent and reliable. Conservatives, I believe, in the Senate, and that's why I'm running.
I want to ask you, much has been made of your family's fortune. Very successful family. You come from 3 generations of Arizonans, correct?
5 generations of Arizonans, 3rd generation family business, yeah.
So people are talking a lot about how much of your own money you've spent. I've read anywhere from $3 million to $4.3 million, and I want to ask you, why put so much of your own money into this race? Does it mean that much to you to go into politics?
You know, I'm very proud of the people around the state. We've raised almost $1 million from people outside of the campaign, and I really believe in this. This is something that, well, in my family, we like to say, leave things better than you find them. And it's something that I'm willing to invest in and really believe in, yeah.
Well, I want to ask you right off the top here, there's been a complaint apparently filed with the Federal Election Commission over whether you are funding your campaign with corporate contributions from your family's fortune. You want to respond to that?
Sure. That complaint is blatantly false and a lie. And it's typical of a career politician. You know, he gets one of his donors to file a frivolous complaint. That there's no truth to it at all. In fact, it's in my opinion, a way Jeff Flake is trying to avoid talking about the issues in his voting record. He has his own FEC complaint filed against him for collaborating and with Washington special interest groups for illegally fundraising there. I think the Arizona voters deserve more of someone coming out and talking about the issues that affect them, not some frivolous FEC complaint. There's no truth to it at all.
Now, you have talked a lot in your campaign about jobs and creating jobs, and you have focused a lot of attention on your business experience, much as Mitt Romney has in the presidential race, saying we need government to function more like a business. But the fact is, government and business have 2 very different missions and models. A business designed to sell a good or service to make money, and that is its primary goal, not to create jobs, not to provide for general welfare. So the question is, how do you bring business sense to an organization designed to do something totally different?
Yeah, you get them out. You get them out of the way of business is what you do. The private sector is where jobs are created, where the economy really takes off. And the problem is we've had government intervene into business and step in where it shouldn't be stepping in. We need government to create a level playing field and get out of the way. And that's one way. Another way that government can get out of business is let people keep more of their taxes. That's why I'm doing this. Again, I want to go back to Washington, D.C. and fix some problems that are there. Out of 100 U.S. senators, in my research, only 15 have been in business before. Only 2 in the last 10 years. If we expect people to fix something like that, and the jobs in the economy, we ought to be sending people who have experience in jobs in the economy. It's the equivalent of saying, you know, I'm the world's greatest parent, but I don't have a kid, so send me to be the parent. It doesn't work that way. And so that's why I think we need to send, hopefully more than just me, back to Congress that have had business experience and understand what it takes. to get the economy going again.
I know you've spoken in a previous interview about your family is involved in a multitude of business in real estate, and you've talked about some of the jobs that have been created, and you mentioned, I think, Dunkin' Donuts, Subway, and absolutely no disrespect to those jobs, because any job is a good job, but to be globally competitive, don't we need to create, higher paying jobs, higher skilled jobs?
We need all kinds of jobs. Yeah, in our family business, we have restaurant jobs, as you pointed out. We have real estate jobs, construction jobs, engineering jobs, accounting jobs, all across the board. And the reality is, in today's global environment, the mom and pop corner store is competing against stores all across the globe because of the internet. So we need to create all kinds of different jobs. We need to get government out of the way of small business. It's difficult. It's really hard to make money. And people that have been in politics for years and years and years don't understand that.
You know, on that subject, I want to ask you about a big story going on right now. J.P. Morgan announces losses of $3 billion, but I'm hearing now that it could be as high as $5 billion on investments it made supposedly to hedge against losses. Now, Republicans across the board have criticized the current administration for putting too many regulations on businesses. Some would argue the J.P. Morgan losses show the need for more, not less regulation. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think we need more specific. Yeah, the Dodd-Frank is basically the Obamacare of the financial industry, and it's a mess. It's several thousand pages, and businesses can't figure out where to go. Businesses crave stability. Businesses crave government to set the playing rules and then get out of the way. And right now, we need more specific, more exact, more transparent regulation rather than just heaping on regulation that hasn't worked. It hasn't taken care of the problem.
We want to continue our conversation, including asking you a question about gay marriage. We will take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Another issue that has taken a much more prominent position in campaigns over the past several weeks is gay marriage. Will, you have stated that you oppose gay marriage and support the Defense of Marriage Act. I read a little bit on your website about that. But I want to ask you about this. One of the top Republican pollsters in the country, John Von Luisen, last week issued a memo saying support for gay marriage is growing. This is interesting. And let's put this memo up. You see some of the things he says Republicans and Republican-leaning voters support. These are according to his poll results. Just a few of them here. Protecting gays and lesbians from being fired for reasons of sexual orientation. Repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Legal protection for gay couples, whether it be same-sex marriage or domestic partnerships. Basically, I take that as he's advising Republicans that they need to evolve or risk damaging the brand. How do you respond to that?
You know, I'm the oldest of 8 children. 6 of my brothers and sisters are adopted. I have 5 children of my own, been married for 20 years this year. And I believe that the family is the basic building block of society. And that's what creates a very stable society. And so I'm supportive of traditional marriage and of traditional families and family values.
So when you hear this well-respected Republican pollster giving this advice, you would say to him, if he was saying this directly to you, that you need to evolve your point of view, you say what?
I say that I'm for traditional marriage and for traditional families, and I think that's a basic building block of society, and he's entitled to his opinion.
All right, let's talk about your attack ad that's running in heavy rotation. I read an article in Politico just a few days ago, and it basically said, quote, the Arizona Republican Senate primary is officially a shooting war. This is referring to your direct attack ad after Mr. Flake co-sponsored a bill that would add a carbon tax, but offset it with dollar-for-dollar tax cuts elsewhere. That's what he says. So let's go ahead right now and take a look at part of this ad.
Congressman Jeff Flake wants an energy tax. Flake's plan raises energy taxes nearly $1 trillion in 10 years, increasing taxes on coal and gasoline, higher taxes on businesses. Families will pay $1,000 more a year for utilities and gas.
Congressman Flake's office was quick to respond to this, saying the ad is dishonest, and they say this bill actually gets rid of a Democrat cap-and-trade program offering a clear bipartisan compromise. I want to talk to you, of course, about what they have to say, but let's just show their response first. Wil Cardon's attack comes as little surprise since he is spending millions of his family's money to attack Jeff Flake's hard-earned reputation as one of the nation's top conservative reformers, and adding the bill that Jeff Flake co-sponsored co-sponsored was a smart, free market, conservative approach to expose the Democrats' cap-and-trade bill for what it was, a massive tax increase. So what do you say?
First of all, I disagree that it's an attack ad. I think this ought to be an issues-based campaign, and that's an issue that the voters ought to know about. You know, I didn't attack Jeff Flake's family or his family business. That's a personal attack. I think that's not appropriate. But I think issues are appropriate, and Jeff Flake did sponsor an energy tax that would have increased the cost of energy, gasoline, and power bills $1,000 for a family of 4 every year. That's a relevant fact. Jeff Flake also, you said, he pointed out it was tax neutral. He says that the government will take more money and then they'll give it back. I disagree with him on that premise. I have never once seen the federal government take more money and then follow through and give it back. It is a tax increase, and it's unfortunate. That's just one of the issues out of many that Jeff Flake and I are going to disagree on.
He says that he was trying for bipartisan compromise here, and wasn't the money going to be coming from a payroll tax, basically to make it revenue neutral? Which
is really interesting, because the payroll tax that passed this last time, cutting the payroll tax, extending the payroll tax holiday, he voted against, saying it was a dishonest budget gimmick. So he can't have it both ways. He needs to either stand up and say one's right or one's wrong. But for him to come back and say, oh no, this one's dishonest, but this one's honest, is just a typical career politician's behavior.
A question from Twitter, someone asked, why go negative so early?
Yeah, again, I'm not going negative. I think this is an issues-based campaign, and people need to understand the issues.
Do you plan to go negative?
No, I plan to just educate people on the issues. I think that's what Arizona deserves right now. We don't need a U.S. senator. We need an Arizona senator, and we need someone who can clearly communicate with the voters and let them know what's been going on. And Jeff Flake's record is what he's done, and that's what he should be running on, not attacking me on some personal level.
When you got into this race, were you fully prepared, you and your family, for what it was going to be like, just on a personal level? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that. That's the reason a lot of business people don't run, I believe, is because it's a big sacrifice. We are very, very happy, though, with what's gone on so far, and we're looking forward to a spirited race, but in the end, that'll be best for the voters of Arizona.
I want to ask you about another issue that's been in the news. Richard Carmona, the likely Democratic nominee in this race, recently went after your opponent on education, criticizing Mr. Flake on the issue of interest rates and student loans, saying Flake's opposition to these programs stems from a rigid political ideology that insists that public programs are detrimental to our economy, no matter the evidence to the contrary. Yet he continues to neglect the fact that we need to create opportunity in order to build a more educated workforce that contributes to the global economy. So I'd like to know what your view is on the student loan. Let's talk about the student loans first and foremost, because you were very blessed. You were able to go to some great schools. Obviously, you got in there, you earned it, but you also have a family who was able to put you through those schools, and not every American kid has that good fortune.
Yeah, education's a big part of my family. My grandfather grew up in a tent with a dirt floor just north of Tucson, and they had a saying in their family, every Cardon through college. That's how they were going to work themselves out of poverty. And the concept was they pool their money and have increased earning power by going through college. And all 9 of those children in the late 20s and early 30s ended up getting their degrees. Education is, as you say, is one of the most important things we can do. And I have been very blessed, very fortunate to go to the schools I've gone to. I don't think it's government's role, though, to sit there and meddle in the private sector. I would like to see government not take as much taxes so people can decide how they want to spend their money and can live their lives.
How concerned are you about this issue? I was just reading an article in the New York Times, and it was titled, "A Generation Hobbled by the Soaring Cost of College."
Yeah, it's out of control, isn't it? We have all kinds of problems that need to be fixed. That's why I believe we need to send a businessman back to Washington, D.C., who's actually dealt with budgets and who actually has had to cut costs and do those kind of things. And to sit there and send someone back to Washington, D.C., it's Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result when we send someone back who hasn't ever done those things. And so I very much think I would like to get some reforms done to give everyone the economic opportunity that was afforded to me and my family.
Mr. Cardon, we just have about a minute left. I want to ask you, though, about the border, because I know on your website you list jobs in the economy first and the border second.
Yes, I do.
What's your point of view? What do you think needs to happen yesterday in terms of the border?
I think we need to secure the border. It's been a political football that has been played back and forth. It can be done very quickly.
How?
Well, you just send the right number of troops down there. You actually build the fence. We have the best military, the best technology in the world. You enforce the laws inside. You turn off the magnets that are causing people to come here illegally and break the law. And you certainly don't ship weapons to drug cartels across the border and let them shoot at us. You actually go through and say, we're going to take care of this problem. We're going to get this solved. Because then you can start solving problems after that. But until you do that, everything else is theoretical.
And you are not, I assume, in favor of a path to citizenship for those who are in the country?
I am not in favor of amnesty, no. There are 4.5 million people waiting to legally come in this country who have done it the right way. We need to fix a broken legal immigration system. This country's built on legal immigration. We're all either legal immigrants ourselves or descendants of legal immigrants. That's the lifeblood. But we do it legally. That's why people want to come here, is because this country is based on the rule of law, and we obey the law. And I would hate to see that be gone. That's why I believe the way I do.
Well, Cardon, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Look forward to more conversations with you in the future.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me. I want to clarify something earlier. I want to be sure, you know, I am not for more government regulation on the banks. I wanted to just be sure I got that across. So thank you very much for letting me come on and explain that.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.